What's happening around the world?
And what's happening here at home? A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news. I'm Mariam Ganavijaya.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
150,000 state sector employees on alert. All set for 2024 presidential election. Ballot boxes dispatched to 13,421 polling booths. Voting for the presidential election from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Debt restructuring program disadvantageous to the people, claims former IUSF convener Vasantha Mudalige. Basil leaves for overseas. Pavitra, Rohita and SM suspended from the SLPP. Grade 5 scholarship answer sheets will not be evaluated until CID investigation concludes.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
38 presidential candidates and 17.1 million people eligible to vote.
Voting will begin at 7 a.m. tomorrow and end at 4 p.m. Who will be the 9th executive president of Sri Lanka?
The final phase of transporting ballot boxes is currently underway, with staff said to be deployed to 13,421 polling booths. Over 50,000 state sector employees will be deployed for duty at polling booths. The transportation of ballot boxes in the Colombo district began this morning. Officials from international election observation organizations were also engaged in observation duties.
Ballot boxes are being dispatched today from Royal College and DS Senanayake College to all polling booths. Security has been arranged for all locations and transportation logistics have been finalized. Royal College and DS Senanayake College have been designated as counting centers as well.
In the Gampa district, ballot boxes were dispatched from the Bathalagedara Angoda counting centre.
1.8 million voters have registered in Gampa district for this year's presidential election. 1,212 polling booths have been established in the Gampa district. 150 counting centers have been established. Compared to the last presidential election in 2019, there is an increase of about 120,000 voters this time. Gampa district has recorded the highest number of voters in Sri Lanka.
Ballot boxes were dispatched to 735 polling booths from the National College of Education in Kalutara.
In 2024, 1.24 million voters have registered in the Kalutara district. We have established 735 polling booths to ensure that every voter can cast their ballot with ease.
Ballot boxes in the Kandy district were dispatched from the Open University of Sri Lanka in Polgolla. Distribution of ballot boxes concluded this evening.
890 polling booths have been established in the Kandy district, each staffed with 2 police officers. We have advised that voting should begin at 7 a.m. tomorrow and conclude by 4 p.m.
Newsfirst cameras captured the process of ballot boxes being dispatched from the Mathare District Secretariat to the polling booths.
Senior officers arrived at 330 polling booths in the Mathare district at around 7:30 am to receive their appointment letters and begin the distribution of essential materials, including ballot boxes.
The distribution of ballot boxes to 534 polling booths in Norelia was completed by this evening. The ballot boxes were dispatched from the Gamini Central College in Norelia. Ballot boxes were dispatched to polling booths in the Galle district from the Madhu Island using boats.
Election activities are proceeding smoothly in a peaceful atmosphere. Regarding vote counting, there are 5 sub-counting centres at Southlands College and St. Aloysius College with 20 dedicated counting centres and halls.
Ballot boxes were dispatched from Rahula College in the Mathura district.
People eligible to vote across 7 electorates and 526 polling booths. We have provided ballot boxes and the necessary equipment for these 526 polling booths.
Ballot boxes were dispatched from the Suchi National School to 416 polling booths in Hambantota. Newsfirst correspondent reported that distribution concluded by this evening. Ballot boxes were dispatched to 619 polling booths in Jaffna since this morning, with additional boxes transported to Delph Island by boat. Ballot boxes were dispatched to the 1 electorate encompassing the administrative districts of Vaunia, Mullaitivu and Mana. Newsfirst cameras captured footage of the ballot boxes being transported to various booths within the Batiklu district. In Diga Madulla, ballot boxes were dispatched from the Hardy Advanced Technological Institute in Ampara.
The total number of registered voters in the Diga Madulla electorate stands at 555,472. There are 26,775 postal voters in our district. A total of 528 polling booths have been established.
In Trincomalee, ballot boxes were dispatched from 7 a.m. from the Vipulananda Tamil College.
All ballot boxes, including the ballot papers, have been distributed. Around 4,000 state sector employees are on election duty in the district. The current situation in the district is peaceful.
Ballot boxes were dispatched from 4 centres in the Kurunegala district this morning.
Votes will be counted in the Kurunegala district and the ballot boxes were distributed at the counting centres and will be collected from the same centres tomorrow as well.
Ballot boxes in Putlam were dispatched from St Andrews Central College. Ballot boxes for 636 polling booths in Anuradhapura were dispatched from the Anuradhapura Central College.
The distribution of the ballot boxes is now complete. No issues have been reported so far. We are observing human-elephant conflicts in many areas and we have made separate arrangements to address that as well.
Newsfirst cameras also captured the transportation of ballot boxes in Polonnaruwa.
The Royal Central College has been designated as a counting centre. 33 sub-centres have been allocated for counting normal votes, while 15 sub-centres have been allocated for counting postal votes.
The distribution of ballot boxes for polling booths in the Badulla district began at 7 a.m. from the Badulla Central College.
530 polling booths have been established. There are 705,772 registered voters, of which 42,061 are postal votes. 99.4% of postal votes have been cast, making postal voting quite remarkable this time.
Ballot boxes in the Munragala district were dispatched to polling booths from the Munragala Royal College. Newsfirst correspondent reported that distribution concluded this evening.
The ballot boxes were distributed at Royal College, Munragala this morning. Security has also been tightened around the location and no issues have been reported so far.
The transportation of ballot boxes to polling booths in the Ratnapura district began this morning.
Necessary arrangements are made to cast votes at 700 polling booths. There will be 3 counting centres.
Ballot boxes in the Kegol district were dispatched from 2 centres, the St. Joseph's Girls College and the Swarna Jayanti National College.
Zonal assistant officers informed us that the ballot boxes and ballot papers have been delivered to the senior polling station officers. 2,800 police officials are on duty to ensure high security.
Polling booths will be open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow for people to cast their vote at the presidential election. A total of 17,140,354 voters will be casting their votes at 13,424 polling stations across the country. Confidential materials, including ballot papers and other documents, are being distributed to senior polling booth officers and security officers at the 13,424 polling booths located within the divisional secretariats of the 25 districts and 1,713 other relevant centres today. In most districts, this distribution began at 7 a.m.
Since this morning, people were seen heading towards their villages from Colombo to cast their votes at the presidential election. This was the situation at the Colombo Fort SLTB bus stand.
බස්නේ මාතේ කොහමද ඡන්දේ දාන්නේ පාන්දර 5 ඉඳලා ඉන්න කොච්චර සෙනග ඉන්නේ මෙතන එන්න විදියක්වත් නැහැ මෙච්චර වෙලා 4 ඉඳලා ඉන්නවා අපි ඇට්නේ යන්න පැයකට වැඩි මෙතන මේ ඉන්න තැනම ඉන්නේ අපි
3 ඉඳලා මෙතන ඉන්නවා අපි කොච්චර දුරද යන්න ඕනේ අපි යන්න ඕනේ ඩායගම
උදේ 3:00 ඉඳලා පොලිම තාම බස් එකක් නැහැ බලන්න සෙනග කොහමද ඉන්නවයි කියලා බලන්න අපි කොහමද කියලා ඊට ඡන්දේ දාන්නේ පොලිම ඉන්න ඔක්කොම.
A large crowd was also seen at the private bus stand in Colombo Fort waiting to leave for their villages.
කොහමද යන්නේ අපි මේ දවස් ගානක් නිවාඩුවක් දාලා ඒට යන්නේ තලවැගලට යන්න ඕනි. පැය දෙකක් විතර ඉන්නවා මෙතන.
බස් නෑනේ පරක්කුයි තාම අපි දැන් උදේ ඉඳලා ඉන්නවා.
දැන් ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා කට්ටිය අර CTV එකේ සෑහින්න ඒක මේකේ ටිකට් එක ගන්නවා අරක පොලිමේ සෑහින්න ඉන්නවා.
This was the situation opposite the Colombo Fort railway station today. This was the situation at the expressway bus terminal in Markumbra today. The Sri Lanka Transport Board said that additional bus services will be available throughout the day to facilitate people travelling to their villages for the presidential election. In addition, the National Transport Commission has coordinated with provincial authorities to run extra buses, ensuring that voters have ample transportation options.
How should leave be granted for voting?
The chairman of the Election Commission clarified the guidelines regarding granting leave for voting.
රාජ්‍ය හා පෞද්ගලිකාංශ සේවා නියුක්තයන්ට ඡන්දය ප්‍රකාශ කිරීම සඳහා නිවාඩු ලබා දීම අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. රාජ්‍ය සේවයේ සේවකීන්ට
It is necessary to grant leave for state sector and private sector employees to cast their votes. State sector employees should be granted leave based on the institution's regulations with a minimum of 4 hours, depending on how far the polling booth is. Similarly, private sector employees must also be granted leave according to the distance they need to travel. We have communicated all these details through media releases. For distances of up to 40 kilometers, half a day leave should be granted. For distances between 40 90 to 100 kilometers, 1 day of leave is required. For distances between 100 to 150 kilometers, 1.5 days of leave should be provided, and for distances over 150 kilometers, 2 days of leave should be granted. However, in cases where the polling booth is located extremely far from the employee's workplace and the voter needs up to 3 days to travel and return, leave for 3 days should be provided. We also request that public and private universities, their staff, students and workers in private institutions such as garment factories ensure that their employees are granted leave to vote according to these guidelines.
පෞද්ගලික ආයතනවල සේවකීන්ටත් ඉහත පරිදි තමාගේ ආයතනයේ සේවකීන්ට ඡන්දය ප්‍රකාශ කිරීම සඳහා නිවාඩු ලබා දීමට කටයුතු කරන ලෙස.
The Election Commission also announced that it calls upon all employers to provide the necessary leave for their employees to vote as per the provisions of the Presidential Elections Act.
How can you cast your vote at the presidential election?
අපේක්ෂකයාගේ නම
To cast your vote, mark 1 in the box next to the candidate's name and symbol. If you wish to have a preferential vote, mark number 2 for your second preference and number 3 for your third preference. In this situation, marking a cross instead of number 1 will result in your vote being cancelled.
සලකුණු කිරීමෙන්ද ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. මේ එකේ ඉලක්කම වෙනුවට යම් කිසිවෙක් කතර සලකුණු යොදන්න අදහස් කරනවා නම් ඒ ඡන්දයත් මේ ඡන්ද විමසීමේදී වළංගු ඡන්දයක් හැටියට පිළිගන්නවා. සලකුණු කර ඇති ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකා ගණන් කිරීමේදී ප්‍රතික්ෂේප වීමට බලපාන හේතු.
Reasons for refusal in counting of marked ballot papers include when the ballot is not marked for any candidate, meaning no box has been marked, if more than one candidate is marked as 1, or if both 1 and a cross are marked for different candidates, if the ballot is marked only for preferences 2 and 3 but 1 is not marked, if there are any other identifiable marks or writings on the ballot paper. It is not allowed to mark a preference after a cross has already been placed on the candidate's box. If a second and third preferences are marked after marking the cross, the entire ballot paper will be nullified. A cross is considered as a mark used in place of 1. If more than 1, 2 or 3 numbers are marked, the ballot paper will also be nullified.
දෙක හෝ තුන මනාප ලකුණු කරලා තියෙනවා නම් මුළු ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකාවම අවලංගු වෙනවා. අපි කතරේ සලකන්නේ එක වෙනුවට යොදන ලකුණක් හැටියටයි. 1 2 3 කියන අංක වලට වඩා ඡන්දය සහ මනාප සලකුණු කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකාවත් අවලංගු වෙනවා.
What should you carry with you to the polling booth?
ඡන්ද විමසීම සඳහා වළංගු වෙනවා.
For voting, a valid NIC is essential. Both old and new national identity cards are accepted, as well as valid passports and driving license. State service pensioner identity cards are also valid, along with old or new e-cards. Additionally, senior citizen identity cards and priest identity cards issued by the Department of Registration of Persons are acceptable. A verification letter with a photo issued by the Department of Registrations of Persons is valid too. For persons with disabilities, a temporary identity card issued by the Election Commission is required. There is also a temporary identity card. Any one of these forms of identification must be presented at the polling booth.
මේ කියන හැඳුනුම්පත් 9න් එකක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඡන්ද පොලේදී ඉදිරිපත් කළ යුතුයි තමන්ට ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකාවක් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා.
Sri Lanka decides will kick off its special coverage for the 2024 presidential election at 6 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting live from the Newsfirst studios in Colombo and the election headquarters at Stein Studios in Ratmalana, providing you with updates from across the country using the latest technology. Our dedicated team includes over 200 regional correspondents and Newsfirst reporters, all prepared to deliver in-depth coverage. Before voting begins, we'll connect with election officials and the police to ensure you receive timely and accurate information. And once the polling booths open, we'll keep you updated on important developments, including election announcements, ballot box transport, and vote counting. By tomorrow evening, we'll share everything from the first official postal vote results to the final tallies of the 2024 presidential election. And now let's cross over to Newsfirst's Theruni Karnaratna for an update on the preparations.
Tomorrow, Sri Lanka decides who its new leader will be for the next 5 years. Starting from 7:30 a.m. tomorrow until 4:30 p.m., the people of Sri Lanka will be exercising their voting powers to elect the 9th executive president of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Now, as the final preparations to hold the 2024 presidential election are underway, we at Newsfirst are also on our final stages of preparing to bring you the official election results and other related updates first and fast as usual. Let's head on in. We're at the Stein Studio Complex in Ratmalana, where we are all set to bring to you the official results of the 2024 presidential election and all election-related updates first and fast with the aid of the latest AI technology with the support of multiple foreign companies as well. As you can see, we're at the Stein Studio Complex. The team is very busy. You can see that they are in their final stages of preparation for the 2024 presidential election. Well, as I said before, vote counting ends at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow, and we'll be having correspondents stationed at all election counting centres island-wide, and with the assistance of such a widespread network, Newsfirst will be at the forefront of bringing to you the very latest, most accurate information first and fast, just like we always have. Now, this is also a friendly reminder that in addition to the official election results, we are all set to bring to you trilingual panel discussions with experienced journalists in the panel, where we will be analysing statistics and data from past presidential elections here in Sri Lanka, which will give you a better understanding about the past elections that have occurred in Sri Lanka, about the results, how the candidates have fared. We do understand that you will be very excited to see how your preferred candidate or candidates have fared this year. Newsfirst has got you covered, as we, through all these methods, will be bringing you the most accurate information first and fast with the aid of the latest AI technology like you've never seen before. So stay tuned with Newsfirst throughout the day. Tomorrow, we will be bringing to you the latest updates right to your living room or right to your fingertips. Signing out for now from the Stein Studio Complex in Ratmalana, I'm Theruni Karnaratna.
The voice of the nation determines its future through every choice, with every vote.
News First.
Bringing you the latest updates first and fast with the truth at its core and real-time data.
Catch every detail with expert analysis, answer to your questions and the unexpected uncovered.
Stay ahead of the curve with the latest technology, one update at a time throughout the day.
Feel the pulse of the election.
On your screens, stay connected and informed.
With News First.
Sri Lanka decides.
Sri Lanka decides.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Decent Hotel.
Digon Naba, a hidden victim of a waterborne illness epidemic. Thousands suffer, their lives ravaged by contaminated water. Gammadda, Sri Lanka's rural development movement, stepped in. They built a water purification system, a lifeline for the community. Now, Digangnaba can heal, thrive and break free from the chains of illness.
Professor Sirimal Aberatna says that the successful completion of the debt restructuring process marks a significant milestone in the country's economic history. Murtaza Jafaji, chairman of the Advocata Institute, highlights that the country has reached a critical point in the restructuring of its foreign debt.
An announcement from the London Stock Exchange details an agreement in principle reached by the government of Sri Lanka with various bondholders and financial institutions regarding the restructuring of its debt. Sri Lanka reached a draft deal with creditors to restructure $12.5 billion of international bonds and also finalized a preliminary deal to restructure $3.3 billion in debt with China Development Bank, one of Beijing's two main trade policy banks. The President's Media Division said Sri Lanka announced that it has reached agreements in principle on the restructuring of approximately $17.5 billion of external commercial debt as of 2023 end. These agreements have been reached with holders of its international sovereign bonds following negotiations with the ad hoc group of bondholders, a representative group of international investors, and the local consortium of Sri Lanka, or the LCSL, a representative group of domestic financial institutions. Collectively, the two groups hold in excess of 50% of the bonds. Under the agreements, holders of the bonds will be consenting to a present value concession of 40.3% in the baseline scenario, calculated with a discount factor of 11%. The agreements provide Sri Lanka with enhanced debt relief compared to the joint working framework agreed in July 2024, including a further reduction in interest payments provided in the new agreement. President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized that discussions with private bondholders have successfully concluded, marking a significant step in freeing the country from bankruptcy. He further stated that an official acknowledgement of Sri Lanka's recovery from bankruptcy is expected soon, along with the swift implementation of plans to advance the country.
පසුගිය අවුරුදු දෙකක් විතර කාලයක් තිස්සේ අපි උත්සාහ කළේ ආර්ථික ස්ථායීතාවයත් ඒ වගේම ණය තිරසාරභාවයත් ළඟා කරගන්න. අපිට සැප්තැම්බර් 19 වෙනිදා ලැබුණු ප්‍රවෘත්තිය ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් වෙනවා අපේ රටේ ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගතකරණය අවසානයකට ළඟා වෙන්න පුළුවන් වී.
Over the past 2 years, we have been striving to achieve economic stability and debt sustainability. The news we received on the 19th September is of great significance, marking the near completion of our country's debt restructuring. Particularly, the agreements reached with the commercial creditors represent a major milestone in Sri Lanka's economic history. This takes us a crucial step forward in resolving our bankruptcy crisis, lifting the limitations we have received in capital markets. Additionally, it strengthens our exchange rates and helps bolster the central bank's foreign reserves. At a time when international rating agencies have downgraded us to the lowest levels, this restructuring provides the foundation for recovery. That is why this conclusion is so important. However, we must remember that this is just the beginning. Several challenges still lie ahead. First and foremost, we need to maintain the economic stability and debt sustainability we have achieved. According to the debt sustainability framework agreed upon with the International Monetary Fund by 2032, we must reduce our debt burden, lower our debt to GDP ratio, and enhance our capacity to service foreign debt. Achieving these targets by 2032 is critical, but we also need to go beyond that. Economic growth and export promotion are essential for ensuring long-term debt sustainability and preventing future economic crises. Without these, the benefits of this debt restructuring will be short-lived and we risk facing new financial challenges. Therefore, continued progress in economic growth is vital.
ඒ කාර්යය එතනින් එහාටත් අපිට ගෙන යාම අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. මොකද හේතුව පෙරටේ ආර්ථික වර්ධනය අපනයන ප්‍රවර්ධනය මෙන්න මේ කාරණා නොමැතිව මේ ණය තිරසාරගතකරණය සහ පෙරටේ ඇතිවිය හැකි තවත් ආර්ථික අර්බුද වලට ඇති ඉඩකඩ වහලා දැමීම මෙන්න මේ දේවල් ඇති කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ ආර්ථික වර්ධනයත් එක්ක. Yesterday's announcement is the culmination of a long process. I know there is a lot of political discourse about the need to renegotiate the DSA. Now there's an issue of semantics here because you can't renegotiate a DSA, which is a debt sustainability analysis, which is a methodology. You can renegotiate the debt. So very briefly, the debt sustainability analysis tries to forecast certain debt carrying capacity variables. Some of them are based on what is called stock variables like debt to GDP, and some of them are what we call flow variables such as gross financing needs, which is the amount of debt that has to be rolled over a particular year. So many of these variables don't have a red line, but there is an understanding of what is sustainable, and the IMF basically has done this debt sustainability analysis. Now, yesterday's announcement basically is an in principle agreement with the commercial creditors of the debt restructuring. This technically is not coming out of bankruptcy. The real coming out of bankruptcy is that we are under what you call a selective credit rating. And it will probably take a few more months to complete the whole process, after which there will be a rating action on us where we will probably come out of selective default, hopefully for a rating about CCC. Now, getting an investable rating is fundamental to our economic future. Now, there is no credibility in delaying this process, because if you delay it, the interest will accrue at the old rate of interest. Now, just because we finalize the process, it doesn't mean that at a future date you can't default again, because many countries go on to default, but let's hope that Sri Lanka basically does not have to do that. Now, the important thing is that coming into 2028, large amount of our restructured debt has to start to be paid off. So it is very important that our debt carrying capacity is increased before 2028 so that we regain access to the international markets. Because a country never really pays down its debt. It borrows again to refinance. Just like a company, it's all about refinancing the debt. So the most important criteria is that we have to increase economic growth. So what has been achieved yesterday is a huge game changer in the path to debt sustainability. We have to move forward, because the most important thing is to grow the economy. And if we get our rating back, it will lift a huge cloud that is inhibiting Sri Lanka.
A fundamental rights petition was filed before the Supreme Court today, challenging the government's decision to restructure the debt related to international sovereign bonds or ISBs, claiming that it violates the basic human rights of the people. The petition was filed by Vasantha Mudalige, former convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation. The petition names the Minister of Finance, the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, and the Governor of the Central Bank, among others, as respondents. According to the petitioner, ISBs were initially obtained at interest rates ranging between 5% and 7%. However, under the debt restructuring plan, the government raised the rate to 8.2%, later reducing it to 7.4%. The petition highlights that as a result, the debt obligation, originally amounting to $16.4 billion, has now risen to $9.1 billion, placing a massive economic burden on the Sri Lankan people. It added that despite the fact that these loans were issued under US law and there was potential for debt reduction, the government instead chose to increase the interest rates, causing significant hardship to the public. Mudalige's petition asserts that this decision inflicted great injustice on the people. The petitioner urges the court to rule that the government's debt restructuring process infringes upon the fundamental human rights of the population.
එතකොට ජාත්‍යන්තර ස්වෛරීත්ව බැඳුම් කර හිමියන්ගෙන් ලංකාව ණය ආරන් තියෙන්නේ 105 පොලියට 106 පොලියට 107 පොලියට. මෙන්න මේ පොලිය අඩු කරනවා. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් මේ කප්පාදුවකට යනවා වෙනුවට ආණ්ඩුව කරපු එක තමයි 2024 ජූලි මාසේ 3 වෙනිදා ගිහිල්ලා ස්වෛරීත්ව බැඳුම් කර හිමියොත් එක කතාර ලංකාවේ පොලි වාරිකය පොලි ප්‍රතිශතය 8.2 දක්වා වැඩි කරා. ඒතර ඔබ හිතන්න 105ට ගත්ත ණයක් 106ට ගත්ත ණයක් 107.
Sri Lanka borrowed from international sovereign bondholders at interest rates of 5%, 6% and 7%. Instead of reducing the interest rate or seeking a debt reduction, the government on the 3rd July 2024 negotiated to raise the interest rate to 8.2%. Imagine, loans taken at 5%, 6% or 7% now increased to 8.2%, and the government proudly claims this as debt restructuring. Previously, Sri Lanka owed $16.4 billion, but now due to this increase, we owe $19.1 billion. So, the amount we have to pay has increased by nearly $2 billion. Now, who will bear this additional burden? It is the workers, the plantation labourers, the professionals, the taxpayers, the expats, the fishermen, the farmers and every single Sri Lankan. This so-called restructuring has simply passed a massive new debt onto the public. Additionally, these loans were originally issued under US law, which allows for debt reductions in certain circumstances. That would have been beneficial for the people. However, in yesterday's discussions, the government decided to shift the legal framework to British law. This change eliminates the advantages we had under US law, taking away a potential benefit for the public. As a result, the people are now left with an even larger debt without the option for debt reduction.
නීතිමය ප්‍රතිපාදන තියෙනවා. ඒතර ඒක මේ රටේ ජනතාවට වාසි සහගතව තිබුණ එකක්. හැබැයි ඊයේ දවසේදී ආණ්ඩුව කරපු සාකච්ඡාවේ ඇතුලේ ඔවුන් බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය නීතියට මේක මාරු කරා. ඇමරිකානු නීතියෙන් ගත්ත ණය, ඇමරිකානු නීතියට අනුව තිබුණ එකඟතාවය, ඒකේ වාසියක් ජනතාවට තිබුණා. ඒ වාසියත් අයින් කළා. ඒක බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය නීතියට අනුව කටයුතු කරනවා කියලා තීරණයකට ආවා. ඒතර මේක ඇතුලේ ජනතාවට ණය කප්පාදුවකට නොයා ණය කප්පාදුවක් ගැන සාකච්ඡාව කරත් යන්නේ නැතුව ගිනි පොලිය වගේම ලොකු ණයක් 2030 ගණන් විතර වෙනකල් ගෙවන්නේ.
Education Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party commented on the matter during a media briefing today.
Today an agreement was announced between the international bondholders and the government of Sri Lanka. Although it is termed an agreement, its specifics remain ambiguous. There are 4 significant amendments in this accord compared to the one established on the 3rd of July. The first amendment pertains to the interest rate. In the July 3rd agreement, the interest rate was set at approximately 8.2%. It has now been lowered to 7.5% under the new terms. This means they initially pledged to pay 8.2% on loans issued at 5%, and now they expect us to express satisfaction with the reduction to 7.5%. However, as specified in this agreement, the 7.5% rate is only applicable for 4 years from 2028 to 2031-32. After 2032, we will revert to an annual interest rate of 8% or 9%. So what is there to celebrate? It is absurd to assert that the debt has been restructured or that bankruptcy has been averted. The second point concerns the gross domestic product. Previously, the GDP was estimated to range between $93 billion and $100 billion. It has now increased between $104 billion and $107 billion. This suggests a potential GDP increase of just over $1 billion. However, this increase is predominantly nominal. When accounting for fluctuations in the exchange rate of the rupee against the dollar, the tangible value has not improved. While the nominal GDP may have risen, the economy remains stagnant and citizens are losing their jobs and livelihoods. A contracting economy will not resolve these challenges. If the nominal value increases without a corresponding rise in tangible value, interest will be levied based on this inflated nominal value. This announcement claims an anticipated benefit of $3.2 billion, but that advantage is unlikely to materialize. This is a trap. We are unable to expand our productive capacity. Another critical aspect of this agreement is the local option. Although these international sovereign bonds are categorized as international, some sovereign bonds have been issued to Sri Lankan investors and financial institutions. This means that if Sri Lankans have purchased these international sovereign bonds, they may opt to receive repayment in rupees rather than dollars. While this appears advantageous, it effectively constitutes a haircut for these bonds. If any debt reduction occurs, it will not affect domestic financial institutions. They will be reimbursed in full with interest in rupees. This process seems to benefit certain allied entities and crony capitalists at the expense of broader restructuring. In the domestic debt restructuring, the amounts owed to private sector workers' pension funds such as the Employees Provident Fund and the Employees Trust Fund were reduced, while interest rates of 28% to 33% were maintained for other stakeholders. This agreement is portrayed as a significant advantage, yet concerns remain regarding the legal framework involved. Additionally, we have entered into credit agreements governed by US law. If the total value of the bonds exceed 20%, it will subject to UK law. The issue here is that for debt reduction, particularly regarding predatory loans or ODS debt, the legal provisions in the US differ markedly from those in the British law. This undermines any potential opportunity we had for meaningful debt relief.
risk premium එකක් දීලා ගත්ත අවදානම් ණය ඒ වගේ දේවල් නොගෙවා සිටීම සඳහා වන නෛතික ප්‍රතිපාදන තියෙන ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපද නීති. ඒක බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය නීතියේ නැහැ. දැන් අපිට ණය කපා ගන්න මොනවා හරි අවස්ථාවක් තිබ්බනම් ඒ අවස්ථාවත් නැති කරන එක තමයි මේ කළා තියෙන්නේ.
Founder of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, former Minister Basil Rajapaksa, left for Dubai today from the Bandar Naik International Airport in Katunayake on board a flight EK649. According to reports, he used the Silk Road lounge at the Bandar Naik International Airport, for which he paid.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has decided to suspend the party membership of MPs S.M. Chandrasena, Pavitra Vaniarachi and Rohita Abegunawardana. The SLPP's General Secretary said that their party membership has been suspended due to their decision to support another candidate, which is against the decision made at the SLPP's Politburo meeting held on the 29th of July to support the party's candidate. In addition to their party members' suspension, these three parliamentarians have also been removed from their positions within the party.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Pintaru වැඩමුළුව හා ප්‍රදර්ශනය. NVQ සහතිකලාභී වෘත්තීය පින්තාරු ශිල්පියෙක් ශිල්පිනියක් වීමට ඔබත් අදම එක්වන්න. විස්තර හා ව්‍යාපදිංචි වීමට අමතන්න 0777 6040. ජැට් පින්තාරු අභිමාන. දේශීය දෙව පින්තාරු කරන්නේ උන්නතිය උදෙසා.
Continuing in more local news, another person was shot dead in Dehiwala today. Over the past 5 days, 3 people have been shot dead in Dehiwala and nearby areas.
A 45-year-old man named Andra Costa was shot dead in Kadavata Road, Dehiwala today. At around 8 am, while he was riding his motorcycle towards Kalabovila, he was attacked by 2 motorcycle gunmen. Police said that the victim, who was employed at the Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council, succumbed to his injuries after being admitted to the Colombo South Teaching Hospital in Kalabovila. Police investigations revealed a connection between this murder and 2 shootings that took place in Dehiwala on the 15th and 18th of September. On the 15th of September, a man named Tharindu Madhushan was shot in Badovita, Dehiwala. On the 18th of September, another shooting in Saranankara Road, Kuhuwala, resulted in the death of Nagasamy Vishwanathan. Police suspect that these 3 murders may be linked to ongoing conflicts between rival gangs involved in drug trafficking.
Secretary of the Ministry of Education Tilaka Jayasundara says that a decision has been reached to temporarily suspend the evaluation of the answer scripts of the Grade 5 scholarship examination until the CID investigations are concluded.
The
Ministry of Education and the Department of Examinations are making the necessary preparations to take action once a report on the preliminary investigation conducted by the Department of Examinations and the CID is received. According to the CID's investigations, if it is determined that the exam papers were leaked and this is confirmed, we can make the necessary arrangements to conduct the examination again. The Minister and the President have instructed the Ministry to act according to the investigation reports. We will also take legal action against those responsible. We do not expect to conduct any evaluations or reviews of the examination papers until a final decision is reached. Until then, we will not release the examination results until the investigations reports are received.
The
Criminal Investigation Department is conducting the investigations. There is no need to have any doubts. We will make necessary decisions in a manner that ensures fairness and justice.
The passenger vessel named Nedun Tarakai commenced operations after full docking by the Sri Lanka Navy.
The passenger vessel Nedun Tarakai was ceremonially handed over to the Road Development Authority in Delft on the 19th September 2024 following the completion of a full docking by the Sri Lanka Navy. The vessel has been deployed by the Road Development Authority for passenger transport between the Delft Island and the Kurikatuan jetty in Jaffna. In response to a request from the Road Development Authority, the Sri Lanka Navy, under the direction and guidance of the Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral Priyantha Pereira, undertook the repair and modernization of the passenger vessel. The work was completed at the Naval Dockyard, Trincomalee. The handover ceremony took place at the Delft Pier.
In a move to bolster Sri Lanka's digital infrastructure and enhance its law enforcement capabilities, the government of the Republic of Korea has donated advanced compute equipment to the Sri Lanka Police and the Attorney General's Department.
The government of the Republic of Korea donated computer equipment to Sri Lanka police in order to promote digitalization, to strengthen cyber investigation capabilities and to activate the insurance of criminal records. The handover ceremony was attended by Myeon Lee, the ambassador of the Republic of Korea, and the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Ruhan Premaratna, of the Criminal Investigation Department. The Korean government believes that these donations will be helpful for the Sri Lanka Police Department to maintain an efficient service of rendering peace and justice to the general public and renew the bilateral relationship between Korea and Sri Lanka. On the 18th of September 2024, the government of the Republic of Korea donated computer servers and server racks to the Attorney General's Department with the aim of supporting to strengthen its investigative capacity. The Attorney General expressed his gratitude for the contribution made by the Korean government to ensure an effective criminal prosecution service in the country. The Korean government believes that this donation will be useful and help the Attorney General's Department to maintain an efficient service of rendering justice to the general public.
Fox Resorts Jaffna has been honored with 2 silver awards at the South Asian Travel Awards 2024 in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Fox Resorts Jaffna was recognized as the leading boutique hotel in South Asia and the best heritage hotel in South Asia, celebrating its unique blend of luxury hospitality and rich cultural heritage. The South Asian Travel Awards is South Asia's most prestigious travel industry event, celebrating excellence across the region. Fox Jaffna is honored to be recognized once again and remains committed to delivering an exceptional boutique hospitality experience that continues to captivate and inspire guests from around the world.
In some international developments, India says it has decided a rollover of $50 million treasury bill for an additional year upon the request of the Maldives government.
The High Commission of India and Maldives said in a press release, at the request of the government of Maldives, the State Bank of India has subscribed the $50 million government treasury bill issued by the Ministry of Finance of Maldives for a period of 1 more year from the date of maturity of the previous subscription, the 19th September 2024. The treasury bills were previously rolled over annually with interest paid by the Indian government. However, it said the government of President Mohamed Muizzu repaid $50 million in January this year. Maldives Foreign Minister Musa Zamir has expressed gratitude to External Affairs Minister S.J. Shankar as the Indian government extended budgetary support to the Maldives with the rollover of the $50 million treasury bill. He said the Indian government's announcement demonstrates enduring bonds of friendship between the Maldives and India.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you very much for watching. Good night and take care.